In my first business, the fee for an annual subscription to my publication was $2,154. People would buy it, they'd get their reports, and then I had no clue what happened, which is why my first business tanked. After I closed that business, one day talking with one of my former clients, I asked him, what was the top challenge with my reports? And you know what he said? He said, time to read it. All of that time I was spending to perfect these reports, to include more and more detail, more useful information. And no one had time to read it. I just didn't see it. So I asked him, what if instead of a report, I had someone come and tell you what you needed to know and answer your questions in just 1 hour? He said, I would pay the same $2,000 in a heartbeat. Actually, can I book that? That would be a major help. I could not believe it. He was willing to pay the same amount that he would pay per year for my subscription for 1 hour of consulting. The same information, different delivery, and completely different value perception. Today, I'm going to share why your pricing has nothing to do with your time, your process, or even your quality, and everything to do with the stakes, the risk, and the transformation you provide. All the time nowadays on social media, you see, charge your worth. But the reality is most entrepreneurs don't know what they're worth. It's not that they're afraid to charge it. They don't even know how to measure it. They think pricing is about time or process or how hard they worked, and it's not. Price is based on risk, on assurance, and trust, not even just quality. Price is based on stakes. You have to understand the problem you want to solve and what the stakes are. Here's what I mean. Imagine your daughter is getting married. You love the guy, you love his family, you couldn't be happier, and you want to give her the wedding of her dreams. His family's flying into town from halfway around the world. Your family's flying in. You've got everything booked at the hotel where everyone is going to stay. This is going to be the most amazing celebration and tribute to your daughter that you could ever imagine. Everyone is super excited. This is a huge family event. What if in the context of this, you got a quote for the wedding cake and the bakery told you it was $50? You'd be like, what? What? Like, people are flying halfway around the world for a $50 cake? Like, this is her wedding day. We're not buying some El Tipo $50 cake. What is that? Like, is it a box cake like Duncan Hines vanilla? When the stakes are high, you want a product that matches them. You're not selling a product, you're matching the stakes. And your price needs to be calculated according to those stakes. So let's look at some examples. Say you're an IT consultant and you're quoting new hardware and new software for a corporate client. Getting the right equipment rolled out in the right way has a huge business impact. Think about what would happen in terms of productivity and downtime if you get it wrong. You can't come in and start with, a computer costs $2,000 and you need 50, so that's $100,000. You have to start with, where are you most concerned this rollout could go wrong? How much business growth and opportunity does this mean for you if you get this right? Where will you become better, more productive, more efficient? You need to understand these things to configure the best solution for them anyways. Let me give you another example, more service-oriented stakes. Let's say you're offering branding service for solopreneurs versus providing the services, the same exact services, for a company with a $4 million annual printing budget and a fleet of 300 vehicles with their logo on it. The price for the solopreneur could be in the low thousands, but the stakes of messing up for the corporation, they're too high to keep that same price. The price is not based on your process, but on the value you create, the assurance that it won't go wrong. Whether it takes you 1 hour or 3 months to come up with the idea is not the point. The fact that you're the one who will get it right is what matters. So how do you tap into what the stakes are? Ask your clients. People come to me all the time and they ask for things they don't need just because they don't know. That's why they come to an expert. When you get on a call to scope out a project with your client, you have to ask a lot of questions and listen. Understand the whole problem. Understand the stakes. What does success look like for them? What could go wrong? And then, and only then, can you determine what they need. I do an exercise with my clients when they're putting together an offer. And I always ask, all right, what would you offer for 10 times that price? The answer is always a more complete service that they probably should have offered in the first place. I had a client who had originally a $15,000 offer, and I challenged her to think about what could a $150,000 version look like. And she said, well, for $15,000, she could do a strategy session with the CEO. But for $150,000, she could come in, she could have the tough conversations, she could get the right leadership team in place, she could support the CEO, she could handle recruiting and onboarding. As soon as she saw that, it was like, okay, of course I should offer both. Different stakes, different scope, different value proposition, different price. Here's how I discover the stakes. I ask about revenue growth, for example. Like, what does this mean for you in terms of revenue growth? It's a growth in your customer base. What does it mean that you want to improve? What's the problem? What are the objectives? How will you know if you achieve the objectives? I also ask about different alternatives. Like, what are the other ways that you could get there? What are the other ways that this problem could be solved? From the very, very expensive things to the easy things. What else have you considered? What else are you looking at? What are options? What other alternatives? And then most importantly, I tap into what could go wrong. What are the things that could come up that could completely derail this project? What would failure look like? You really want to understand what those stakes are. So the first step in value-based pricing is understanding the stakes. The second is being able to articulate the transformation for your client. Sell outcomes, not outputs. I had a firm recently send me a budget for a service that was around $10,000 a month and a list of things that they were going to give me. A list of what I would call dry deliverables. But I don't care what deliverables they're going to give me. Especially with that budget, I care about what they're going to get me. Are you going to get me more sales? Are you going to get me more free time? Are you going to get me more status? What is it you're going to get me? Don't tell me what you're going to give me. Tell me what you're going to get me. How does my life get better with this $10,000 per month outlay? So businesses are out there selling outputs, deliverables, but people are out there buying outcomes, results. Tie the outlay to the outcome and not the output. The outcome is what people want. Along the same vein, by charging more, you can help your clients get better outcomes because when they have higher stakes in the game, then they'll bring their best to the project. For instance, when I hired my first business coach at the $30,000 a year level, I immediately up-leveled my game. I was not going to prepare for a session that was worth a couple $1,000 in the same way that I would prepare for a session worth $100. The same will happen for your clients. Your clients will often up-level themselves to make sure they're getting the most out of you. And they learn and they grow and they get opportunity as a result of that process. The final thing to consider in value-based pricing is that price is based on risk. It's based on assurance. It's based on trust, even more so than on quality. So here's what I found from my clients who undercharge. They ultimately feel undervalued, and many times they are. They end up building themselves a job instead of a business. They get worn down because they're just trading their time for money, which is what they were doing in the corporation anyway. So why have your own practice if you're just going to swap your time for money? So here's what's most important to understand. The important thing to sell is the outcome, not the output. When the stakes are high and they're not willing to pay, that's okay. I may sometimes even offer something lower value if I have something, at least to get them started, or I'll refer them to someone else. I'm okay with walking away if a client cannot afford me. This is the same mindset you want to have. Challenge yourself to look at your own business and see where you're offering a standard boxed cake, okay? A standard service where your clients really want a premium experience. Remember, the price you give today will always be your best price because your value only goes up. You only get better and better. Your value never goes down. Don't start defining your price based on your process or your time. Start with their stakes. What happens if this goes wrong? What happens if they continue doing things the way they are? What happens if this goes right? What's the transformation they're really buying? Stop pricing based on your time or your process and start pricing based on their transformation and the stakes involved. When you make this shift, everything changes. Your confidence goes up, your clients respect you more, and your business becomes sustainable instead of exhausting. Remember, people don't buy your hours, they buy their outcomes. I'm Melissa Marchand, helping accomplished professionals build consulting businesses they love. If you know someone who's undercharging for their expertise, please share this episode.